Hey everybody, my name is Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in to another AMA session with AmaZix. In this AMA session, we'll be talking with Chris, who's the founding director of Cardstack. If you're not aware of who AmaZix is as a company, we are a community management firm, working with some of the top ICOs out there in the crypto space. What we do is make sure that Telegram and other communication channels are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering all time zones so that all questions get answered, trolls get banned, and people are taken care of, and information is put out correctly. Some of our clients include Salt, WePower, Sharp Capital, and Coin Metro, just to name a few. Thanks for tuning in, and let's jump right into this AMA session. And here we are with Chris, who is the founding director of Cardstack. Chris, thank you so much for taking this time to do this AMA session with us today.
Nice being here today.
Excellent. So can you please give us a little rundown? What exactly is Cardstack? Maybe give us a 1 or 2 minute spiel of the main points of your project.
Yes, so Cardstack is building the experience layer of the decentralized internet. I think at the end of the day, what we want to do is to make blockchain easy to do, easy to use, easy to build for, and allow more people to build useful apps that are being used by the mass market that we imagine will come to the blockchain world, and they need something to build on top of. And we're building on top of great technologies and great frameworks and dApps and protocols, but there are a missing gap between what end user expects in the world of beautiful mobile apps and polished websites and the current state of the experience, the user experience that we see on the decentralized internet. And then we believe that a combination of our software development framework for developers, an end user design system that allows composition between different capability from dApps, from cloud service to come together, as well as a protocol to allow a lot of these aggregations of, a million clicks. Do we have to do a million transactions on the blockchain? No, we can aggregate it and then write back the results of the blockchain so that people can get paid, can get settled out on the blockchain. That kind of secondary layer of aggregation is extremely important for scalability, but also for increasing the complexity of the type of decision makings we are doing on the blockchain. That's the Tally protocol. So a combination of framework, user experience, as well as the protocol, and that's what we combine called Cardstack, and we're excited to bring that to the decentralized world.
Great. Well, that sounds pretty exciting to me. So we have here 10 questions that were taken directly from the community channels of Cardstack. So the first question is Cardstack a protocol or a dApp? Are you building infrastructure or are you building a service?
This is great, and we have been getting questions like this on our community channel since we started the channel around the beginning of January. And one of the question that people come ask us is, we like infrastructure. We think this is important. Are you building a dApp or infrastructure? And I think the answer is that we're building a dApp, as in the fact that we are a ERC20 based token and a smart contract that runs on EVM. But so from that technical definition, we're making a dApp. But what we're doing is doing the infrastructure, using the tools given to us by the Ethereum ecosystem, but then offering back up this dApp as a protocol for other people to build on top. And they don't necessarily have to know the guts of the EVM. They can build on traditional programming languages like Node.js, deploy in traditional way using Dockers. But and at the end of the day, once they're done with that, they see the Cardstack layer as a protocol for their own decentralized app. But we can now expand the definition of dApps not just to be things that runs on the Ethereum virtual machine that do specific things around moving tokens around, but actually full-fledged user application that's built on top of all the plugin modules of Cardstack. So I would say we're both.
Okay, so the next question then, this is a bit of a long one. It says, Cardstack's experience layer lets users mix and match applications and dApps across blockchain and the cloud. But do the makers of the apps and dApps have to partner with Cardstack and buy into its vision in order for everything to work? Or can Cardstack allocate payments without the involvement of the makers themselves?
So I think the question here is Cardstack just a platform that's being built by one organization and everybody kind of buys in and they get permission? I think what we've learned from the permissionless revolution that is the blockchain decentralized world is that we want people to go and innovate on top of Ethereum and be able to deploy without permission and use it. Same thing would happen with Cardstack, except I think we want to be cognizant of the incentive structure about making sure that developers who want to deploy the application and monetize the application on top of Cardstacks are playing by the same rules that governs every other developer. So making sure they pay registration fees to support the network, making sure that they share in the what we call the reward pool, which is if someone use your app, you want to be able to get a slice of the revenue that is paid to the Cardstack network. And that's all done through smart contract and the layer 2 aggregation and distribution mechanism. So we want people to be able to come into the Cardstack ecosystem and say, I built this nice crypto portfolio management tool. I don't think I'm going to do a token event just for this small feature, but can I participate in the Cardstack reward pool so I can get, let's say, 2%, 3% of the reward pool because 2% or 3% of the people in the Cardstack ecosystem are adding crypto, portfolio management into their toolkit. That's how I think it is a mix of cooperation. So all the different developer building on top of Cardstack working together, but also competition. Like if a better one comes along with better UI, better integration with iOS, or they can then get better usage, more usage from the same reward pool, and then can compete. And I think that type of healthy competition down the line allows us to have a permissionless group of people. But hey, if you're doing some spammy things and you're pushing people really hard to download your app and claiming too much credit and generating fake usage data, yeah, the system is a stake-based system at the end of it, and you get punished for it. So the combination of incentives and penalties are in our token mechanism and helps coordinate this permissionless innovation on top of our stack.
Great. Sounds like you guys have thought that through pretty good. So the next question says, if the price of Cardstack tokens fluctuate, won't that affect the price of the apps and the dApps also?
Yeah, I think this is a very common problem with dApps that uses a token as a way to price the services. So the way we do it is we use a dual token system, which is getting more and more popular every day, which is just to say that there's a card token, which is a token that is ERC20. It can move with the demand and supply, and it has that kind of fluctuation that to be expected for any type of ERC20 token. But the way we have priced our services is in terms of something called software and services coupon, and which is a fancy way of saying that we want to peg it to the price of something people expect. We've chosen the initial peg to be USD. Now that this doesn't mean that it's a stable coin. It just means that when you say, my crypto accounting software costs $20 a month, then you can say it's 20 times 100 SSC per month, and that allows you to communicate to the Cardstack community with something they can peg to a kind of general understanding of how much that would be, and that will be the price you get. Now, obviously, someone who bought a Cardstack token early on is going to be able to convert whatever USD price of Cardstack token into the coupon, and that would be, you get like 100 times more than someone who comes late in the game. But if someone want to purchase a Cardstack token to immediately convert it to a coupon to use the service, it will be exactly as if they were paying the service in USD. Early adopters will gain the advantage of having a Cardstack token that may have a type of either discount associated or bonus associated. That would mean that they will get more coupon for the same amount of value they put in early on. So that dual token system stabilizes the overall pricing going forward, and also making sure that all makers and creators that create software knows that they are actually competing not just with dApps, but also with people doing software as a service subscription. So it just makes sense for the prices of these subscription software for crypto accounting or messaging system to be priced in something that's pegged to USD.
Sure, thanks for that explanation. Makes a lot of sense to me. So the next question then says, how do you encourage long-term relationships between buyers and sellers within the Cardstack ecosystem?
Yes, I think for us, any type of good, well-functioning token economy has to be grounded on a strong sense of community, and that community has to be ones that people, once they enter the Cardstack community, know that not only can they monetize and be able to, offer the bundle services as a single price to the end buyer. That creates nice momentum effects. So, I'm using Cardstack token to buy my crypto suite. Some goes here, some goes there, and then that momentum carries it forward. So I think an ease of use for the buyer and the ability for the buyer to just worry about one token and get all the services necessary is one way. But on the other hand, it's also important to note that long-term term, the reason why buy will stay with any software vendor or any service vendor is support. And one of the real important things that we see in the Cardstack ecosystem is that, when you put a piece of software out there, you need to support it. You need to be able to answer the phone, pick up the, answer your Telegram messages. And we encourage not just like, hey, here's the code, use it. We want people to build application contract that within it has a terms of service of how much level of support you will get. And that type of customer service from your a particular participant, a seller, that's going to create a sense of a belonging for the buyer to know that this is the ecosystem. It's not just throwing smart contract or throwing open source code over the fence, but there's going to be someone you can call. And in our vision paper, especially chapter 4, we talk a lot about how we can imagine a future sustainable software ecosystem where customer support is not an oversight, a permissionless innovation, a trusted system doesn't mean that there's nobody to talk to. And I think creating economic incentive for strong, sound customer support from different parts of people working together is the way we're going to build that long-term value and relationship.
Great, sounds good. So how about this one? It says, how does Cardstack plan on overcoming the scaling issue of the Ethereum network?
I think there's a lot of great teams working on Ethereum scaling. Most of them are focused, especially the Ethereum Foundation, focusing on making the core blockchain scale, whether it's through sharding or other mechanism. We rely on that. But if you look at the likely projection, how much that will scale, it will be 10x or 100x over the next 2-3 years. I think that's going to be enough to maybe track the user growth, but certainly not the explosion of new dApps coming in, the complexity. That's the same kind of single-threaded CPU that is the Ethereum virtual machine. So for us, it's not about helping to scale Ethereum, but preserving the scaling that the core teams of Ethereum are working on, and then making sure that the 99% of the clicks, 99% of the usage data, 99% of user interaction never hits the blockchain. And that's where our tally protocol comes in, which is tally up the payment, tally up the votes, tally up the user activity, roll it up, possibly even using some of the GPU that's already deployed in the Ethereum world to just roll up the data using data science, whether it's simple aggregation or machine learning, whatever it might be, and then go back to the chain and say, okay, net, over the last day, right, we owe this dApp 6 units of work. Instead of saying, well, how do you come to the 6 units of work? It's because of all these clicks and all these interactions. So using this tally protocol and basically just thinking about parallel computing and understanding how to do data aggregation off-chain, but in a trustless way that still, if someone is doing work that is deserved to be paid, they know that this network of layer 2 tally nodes is going to make sure that result of that aggregation gets back to that seller. So there's more to come on the tally protocol, on the mechanism, on this kind of one-to-many, many-to-many payment model. But what we're doing is that when we write back on chain, when someone say, hey, I want to take this money or take this value I've created as a maker, software maker out, that's when it goes on chain. And that vastly reduces the demand on the Ethereum blockchain compared to the generation of dApps today, where almost every click requires you to approve in MetaMask. And each time you approve is a transaction on the blockchain. And that just taxes the blockchain quite a bit. And we're trying to be a good citizen of the limited resources that we have in this decentralized network and do as much off-chain as possible, but in a trusted, in a trustless and permissionless way as well.
Sure. So that segues into the next question pretty well, that says, what exactly are the miners going to do in the Tully protocol that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so to us, the concept of miners actually quite interesting, right? Mining is I perform some work on behalf of the network and I get some reward for performing that work to secure it. And usually miners do 2 things, right? They secure the network by doing proof of work or proof of stake in some systems that replaces miners' role, but they also process the transaction. They also validate them. They also package them. So for us, it's the same thing, right? So the analytic miner in the Cardstack ecosystem does 2 things. One, they take raw data, click data, let's say 1 million clicks, and they just add add them up, roll them up using either CPU or increasingly GPU resources and say, oh, okay, here's a bunch of data, here's the pie chart, like we wrote it up. And that's the useful work that's done by the miner. And the other one is also they're doing in competition with each other. Many miners can be doing the same aggregation, and through a scheme of competition and stake-based, one of them will win and will get a share of the reward. And the way the reward pool is done is that the reward pool mostly goes to the people who made the software and provided the service and customer support, but a percentage of the reward pool when it's dispersed will go to the miners to secure the network, to make sure that the calculation that determines the splits for all the software developers are done in competition. So you have to, if you were to attack this network, you have to have a lot of resources and play the randomness to make sure that your one kind of evil miner somehow gets selected. And we want to make that prohibitively expensive. And in each reward pool, we can dial up how much we go to give to the miner. The more incentive, the more people participate, the harder it is to have an evil miner allocate money to his friends. So that's kind of the role of the miner, is to do the work, but also to compete with each other so we can secure the network and make sure that the payment is always running the same algorithm that the community have decided upon.
Sure, excellent. So this one is a kind of a long-winded question again. It says, can we compare the layered card stack approach to the layered design and functionalities of the TCP protocol stack? If yes, do you believe that there's room for multiple protocols in the blockchain space? And the final part says, if so, could Cardstack work with multiple blockchains?
Yeah, I'll answer this question in reverse order. The Cardstack framework is always designed to allow you to have a plug-in approach to bring in different data sources so that you can have a unified view, because we can't give a user experience layer if we can aggregate data that matters to that user that comes from different places, whether they're on blockchain or on the cloud or on other legacy systems. So yes, we have a plugin mechanism where Ethereum is a plugin. We've done a lot of work with Hyperledger, so that's a plugin. So those data sources will just come together, create a unified queryable view for the end user, and that's where that power of that cohesive experience come from, is from that data munging, data aggregation, and that uniform view. So we certainly have that kind of thought there. But I think, when you think about the protocol stack of Cardstack, is that we really do believe that the innovation in the decentralized stack is not going to end. In fact, the best way to think about Cardstack is that we work user down. We're a top-down design. A lot of the blockchain innovation and the exciting projects in the fields are bottom up. Okay, we've got this bottom layer. What do we put on top of Bitcoin smart contract? On top of that, what do we put? Payment channels. On top of that, they're building up on the bottom. We're solving this puzzle from the beginning and the end. Cardstack is coming from the end. It's like, what does the end user need? And let's build the on-ramp and the user experience layer, and then eventually meets in the middle. So I don't see Cardstack as the entire stack, the network stack, whether it's the OSI stack or the TCP/IP stack. I see us as the top few layers coming from the user, and hopefully quickly soon within the next year or so, we'll meet in the middle with other innovation and innovators in the field, building on the bottom up, provable computation, privacy preserving things. We would just be able to write a plugin, latch on that, and then deliver the end value to the end user who are already using the Cardstack framework and the experience and using it every day. So I think that's the stack is not just our stack versus other people's stack. We just happens to be in the part that fewer people are working on. But I think it's an important thing to be able to say, when someone come up with an innovation on the bottom, we can immediately deploy it once we build a plugin for it. And that's going to be good for the ecosystem for people to try this thing out once it's live.
Great. So coming to our last couple questions here, this one says, who are your competitors in the blockchain space?
I think there are multiple approaches of how to bring blockchain sensibility to the mass market. On one end, you have Coinbase, who is saying, let's build a centralized, well-regulated license service to make a really nice on-ramp. On the other hand, you have people who are focusing on, completely self-sovereign, either mobile app or desktop app, where the user is running a peer-to-peer node. So in a way, those are all experienced on-ramps, so I guess we compete with them. But I think Cardstack is one of the few frameworks that is designed to have one set of code base, once you write the Cardstack framework, that you can deploy in a way that is much more, hey, you want a hosted service for this crypto accounting system? Cardstack, it allows you to deploy to one of the 6 cloud service provider that supports container or Docker. And that would be a good way to get a lot of mass number of users coming onto the Cardstack ecosystem through the web browser. And then we'll have more custodial. The keys are done in a way that's not complete under user control. But let's say a couple of these users, 5%, 10% decided that I want to use this beautiful app I've been using on the web on my own. I want to control the keys. Right now, that's a pretty big break. You've got Coinbase, you got used to the interface. Now you want to be self-sovereign and control your own keys. You can't use Coinbase anymore, learn a completely new thing. But with Cardstack, they can say, oh, let me go and run the same open source code base that this hosted applications are running on my own, on my computer, on my own control infrastructure. And in that case, we're bridging the gap between these silos that exist where there are different approaches of very, very peer-to-peer, very, very hosted native app versus web app. We're trying to create a way where the innovation and the plugins and the end user modules can be deployed in different ways. And in that particular sense, there's not much competition for us, but we see cooperation opportunity with all these different dApps and blockchain protocol so that we become kind of the framework that people can all recommend and say, you know what, Cardstack is not a lock-in. We can use the Cardstack framework to build our dApp on top of our, the on-ramp on top of our dApp, and knowing that that can always be iterated on by the community. So that's how we see it as assisting the community towards this flexible deployment option without saying that we compete and we win and everybody has to lose. So we're definitely in win-win now in the way we design the stack.
Great. So there's 2 questions left and they have to do about the company itself. So this one says, how does the Cardstack Foundation work and how does the Cardstack Syndicate make money?
Yes, I'll begin with the foundation. Obviously we're extremely inspired by the way the Ethereum Foundation was formed. So Cardstack Foundation is constructed and chartered in a similar way, using a very similar set of regulations and laws and that's governed in the Switzerland Crypto Valley Zug-based ecosystem. So for us, the foundation is really the steward of the mission and the charter. And in a Swiss foundation, once you write down your charter, you can't really change it. It is about promotion of the protocol and an enhancement of the logic and the algorithm that will govern this sustainable software ecosystem. So the Cardstack Foundation is behind the token event. The contribution is going to the foundation, and the foundation will then look at all the work that needs to be done and allocate different portions to core software development, incentive for building end user facing application, research on new way of doing data science to more fairly distribute the reward pool, education and training, and on-ramp for tokens and payments and easy end user on-ramp to get onto get credits or get coupon to use this software. One of the components of this foundation's allocation will be going towards core development of the protocol frameworks. And Cardstack Syndicate is the organization that I've been lucky to be part of, and I started the Cardstack project in 2014, and we've been working towards it, always releasing open source code base, have a group of people who are like-minded about the future of open technologies, and we'll continue working in that way. But with the foundation support, we can accelerate our progress in building more features and actually seeding much better ideas and synthesizing what's out there. The way Cardstack Syndicate has made money and the way Cardstack Syndicate as an organization has been able to fund the development software is by being basically a fee-for-service company. So we just help organization build on top of our open source toolkit to deliver value. And that's no different with the foundation. We'll continue working with the foundation as essentially an agency or consultancy, and that's how we make money. There's no corporation like that is profit-seeking. The Cardstack Foundation is really a non-profit organization looking to enhance it. But I think there is a lot of opportunity for company come in to participate in the revenue share and to add features to the Cardstack a set of capability and then sharing that revenue. I think that's the best way. And then, whether those organizations end up being nonprofit and for-profit, whether it's in jurisdiction, or maybe even competing with Cardstack Syndicate, building new type of vertical application that our team is not focused on, let's say in certain privacy-oriented thing in healthcare. We want them to come and compete for the reward pool. Cardstack Syndicate does not have any claim on the reward pool. We just participate if 10% of the software is still built by Cardstack Syndicate, we'll get 10% of the reward pool. If the field grows a lot and we only become 2% of the overall value of the software code base, then our percentage will shrink, but hopefully the pie will be a lot bigger. So that's how we have designed it. We are the first participant in the token mechanism and the economics that we bring out there.
Okay, so the last question for this AMA session is, do you have the resources for when Cardstack initially launches, and as it grows, how are you going to scale with your more users, more dApps, and that sort of thing?
Yes, and I think this is very much related to the previous answer I gave, which is that because we have this, because the foundation has the ability to jumpstart this ecosystem by using the contribution from the community to say, okay, what is the basic set of tools that's needed for these things to be useful? And then Cardstack Syndicate would take the lead because we know the code base, we know how it works, we know where we want to go, we've communicated our vision, we'll build that. But eventually people will come and say, hey, that's great, but I have a better idea. And that's when the mass number of developers who are working in native apps, working in consulting, working with enterprise, they're going to see the Cardstack framework as something more familiar with them than the pure blockchain kind of dApp, like low-level programming. And they say, hey, I can build end-user facing app. Let me go and expand my business or expand my offering to include blockchain development using Cardstack My Adapter. Can you imagine if tens, if not hundreds of agencies, organizations, software development shop around the world discover the Cardstack framework as something that can help them enter this new blockchain decentralized world, and their local clients and their national client, their regional clients are happy that they can bring this capability of Ethereum into real software application. Well, those are the resources, right? This is a ecosystem, not a company, right? There are companies involved in this ecosystem, but we've designed a token mechanism and a legal structure with the foundation being the overseer to really allow many people to participate and compete for the customer's revenue. And I think that's where that long-term scaling of the number of developers, designers, and product innovator is going to track the number of users by basically letting the community come in. And we have seen this before. If you look at even a successful open source project like WordPress, a lot of development around the WordPress ecosystem does not come from Automatic, which is the company that employ the WordPress, run WordPress.com. So much of that is really distributed, and we see that in all different types of open source software. And what we love about kind of the WordPress ecosystem as an analogy is that there's also a healthy marketplace for themes and stuff like that. So all we're trying to say is that imagine that, right? Which WordPress runs about 24% of the web on websites, but the company Automatic is a very small portion of that. But as long as it's the economy and again, tokens and the Ethereum ecosystem gives us a new way of measuring the value of each input, not just $5 theme and $12 theme, but actually participation over the reward pool. I really believe that would really unlock the value of open source instead of just being a love, I'm doing open source because this is great and I feel satisfied, but actually say, hey, I'm building software supporting my user and rewarding myself and the people who help make my software possible in a fair attribution model. So I think that's really where the long-term scale will come from. And then we're excited and we absolutely need the community support, not only as buyers of these services and understanding that this will help you get into the blockchain and make that easy to use, but also developers and designers. We really want you to take a look at the Cardstack framework, see if you see yourself as a contributor in code, in design and logic, because if we can work on this together, we can really fight back against the monopolistic silos that's in Silicon Valley and big companies where all the tools and softwares are built just for them, and you can't. They lock in your data, lock in the source code. Why don't we build, using cryptoeconomics as a foundation, this open ecosystem that we can all contribute to? I think that's our vision, and hopefully this token event will give us a jumpstart to accelerate the progress towards that.
Great. Well, that's definitely a very inspiring answer. Thank you very much for that. We are actually
Thank you.
out of questions now. I know that I personally learned a lot. I'm sure everybody watching on YouTube will get a lot of information out of this. Was there anything else, Chris, that you wanted to mention that maybe we didn't go over, or maybe just some general information about the project that you think would aid people in understanding the answers that you just gave?
Sure. We've been extremely blessed and lucky to see the community grow so quickly in all the different channels. Obviously, our Telegram group was about like 100 people about a month ago, and now we have 11,000 people. That enthusiasm and that those questions and the challenges and the excitements and what I could say love letters has been sent to us really inspires to work even harder to help organize this community. We see a huge opportunity here for this promise of blockchain to become real. There are a lot of true believers in the blockchain space. A lot of them are in our community, but the ones that come to us and say, yeah, I understand we have a long way to go, and you guys seem to be solving the problem that other people are not solving. And I can tell you that we cannot do this without the community continuous support, and we're excited to continue our journey towards this. Obviously, the token generation event, which is happening in the next month or two, and all the different processes are going to be an important part. Please, come to the Telegram group and ask us questions and keep track of the progress and the milestones. But at the end of the day, on the other side of the token event, this is really about a community coming together and really working towards this common goal of a decentralized layer. And we personally, I feel extremely happy that some of the ideas I have put out there in 2014 with the growth of Ethereum, with the growth of this attention towards what's the alternative to a world controlled by Facebook and Google and Amazon, starting to see this brim of light is really satisfying to see that sudden explosion, as they say, is an overnight success story 3 years in the making. So thank you very much for all your support.
Great. So as you just said, with the community being so important, we're going to have the links in the description box down below to the website, to the white paper, to the Telegram. Everybody will be able to get involved after they finish watching this AMA session. So Chris, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And from me to you, best of luck on your project. I wish you all the best. I know the community is really looking forward to seeing this video, so I'm going to get it going real quick.
Thank you so much for all your guidance today.
No problem. Have a great day. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Same to you.